Hello, everyone. Welcome. My name is Truxel. I'm the producer of Big at the Crossing. Thank you so much for your participation in this virtual Q&A session with our director, Khyentse Norbu. Just to give you a brief context and background about this session, after our previous virtual screenings, we received a lot of questions about the film, and it numbered in the thousands, and it practically became impossible to respond to everyone individually. So we requested our director to join our session today so that we can provide an opportunity to our audience members to ask your burning questions that also directly to the visionary behind Big at the Crossing, the director himself. So all of you know, we collected the questions using online form, and once again, we received a lot of responses, a lot of question submissions. However, due to time limitations, we are able to accommodate only those who are present here. Thank you so much for participating and submitting your question. Before we dive into the questions, Rinpoche, would you like to say anything?
Yes, thanks so much for coming to this. Also, thank you so much for showing a lot of interest and watching the film. Anyway, I'm happy to answer. I'll try my best to answer whatever the questions.
The first question, Rinpoche, is from Tudung Nguyen. I'll ask on his behalf, Rinpoche. His question is, what is Rinpoche's intention in making this film?
Well, that's I don't know. It's kind of such a vast question. Well, of course, there's the intention of, telling stories. We human beings, we like to tell stories, not just stories. We like to share our thoughts, our ideas. We like to share what's in our head, what's in our life. So I guess there's a little bit of that. Then, of course, there's also intention of wanting to share something that I would consider kind of unique, maybe. Something that is not necessarily, I don't know, common or popular, something that is very personal. And, as a human being, we always have that kind of desire. So I guess there's that. And obviously, the intention of making this film is obviously not really, for commercial success or anything like that, because if that is the primary, I will have to do in a different way. But I know there's always people out there who like to hear, different things about life, about how we look at our life, the world, and I guess that is sort of my intention. But as I said, this is kind of a very vast question. I don't know how to really sort of articulate beyond what I just said.
Okay, next we have Sarah Freeman. You can unmute your mic and go ahead with your question.
Thank you. Thank you, Rinpoche, for this film, which I found quite haunting and powerful. My question is about the decision to have the opening scene at the market all on one fixed camera position. It seemed clunky, awkward, and kind of confusing trying to work out who the voices belong to. I wonder, did you want to create a sense of disorientation and stuckness, or was something else going on?
Thank you. Thank you for that question, actually. I really appreciate this question because probably many people have told me, the film got sort of, rejected by many festivals. And actually, a lot of people told me that it may be this beginning, the opening scene that may have put off a lot of the people who screen at the festivals. Yes, I was kind of quite stubborn about it, even during the editing, and even after being rejected several times. There was a strong, suggestion from people that maybe I should consider shortening it or cutting it. But I don't know, for some reason, I've always wanting to do this way. I don't know, there's something about static camera locked on the tripod and kind of a wide shot that really sort of appealed to me. And I really wanted to do that. And not just for this film, but for many other films that I did before, but never really got the chance. I've always thought it's like I don't know. It's like instead of the filmmakers almost like forcing the viewers to just view at a certain angle, certain object, and I don't know, spoon feed them. I mean, this is not like an original idea. I have seen a lot of good filmmakers, what I call good filmmakers, they have done this. And I really was very, I don't know, I've always been big fan of this kind of style. So, yes, I think especially because there's some important dialogue. And I think somehow, especially now that we are so accustomed to see the lips and the face, especially when we watch film, I think it is kind of jarring for people to watch this long, wide, and yet kind of a close proximity dialogue, but you still don't know who's talking. Yes, I was kind of stubborn for keeping this way. And if you ask me whether I'm regretting it, I would say no. I think this is something that I've always wanted to do. So I've done it and I wanted to keep it like this. I think, yeah, that's about all I can say. I hope I'm answering your question.
So next, Kifan Jin.
Okay, thank you. In this movie, the main character is always almost using phone to short videos. What is the significance of this arrangement? Is this also a habit of yours in real life?
Yes, maybe it's a bit of my habit also. I like checking short snippets of, people, events. But because I have this character, the main character, who is supposedly like a video content creator. He makes videos. He's wanting to become a, I don't know, YouTuber, so to speak. So I thought it also fits with his character of wanting to capture life, events, stuff that goes on in his life. And remember, he's supposedly creating also like music videos. And maybe there's another thing that another reason why I wanted to do it this way is I like putting together maybe one or two or sometimes even more absolutely not related pictures together, and then also tell a story. This is also something I have seen with many filmmakers, and I've always liked that. I don't know, somehow, sometimes we are a bit too worried about making sense. So let's say, I don't know, there's a character, and then the character is looking through the window, and then we feel that we need to show what he is looking at. So sometimes we get too great, and we feel that we need to do that. And I have noticed many filmmakers, good filmmakers, I think, they put, some unrelated pictures together, and they, and sometimes it can be really good. And also in our life, many times this is how we think, right? Many times within I don't know, a few minutes, we will be thinking about all kinds of things that are not even related, but that's how the thoughts progresses. I guess also, for editing purpose, especially since our character is supposedly making, videos, I thought I could take the liberty to just put in any kind of images. So that's mainly the reason.
Okay, next is Tari Ratna Pradhan.
Hello, Rumshala. I heard you say that majority of your film crew were first-timers. What was the reason behind that, and what were some of the pros and cons of working with inexperienced crew members and actors?
Well, first, I think it's important to point out that, there's not a whole big film industry in Bhutan. I mean, it's a very small Himalayan nation. I don't know whether people can really fathom this. The very language that we use, the main language anyway, this film has several languages, but the main spoken language in the film, perhaps there's only about 5 or 600,000 people who really speak this language. So out of that, let's say half the people can actually have access to watching any kind of film. I'm not only talking about this film. So what we are talking about something really, really small. So that has a lot of consequences, or this has a big impact on everything, like a film crew, I don't know, commercial values. Just filmmakers in Bhutan, they struggle a lot. They have to, I mean, like let's say if you make a Hindi Indian language, Hindi speaking film, then there's a billion probably, or at least 500 million people who would watch this. I mean, potential, right? So the scope is much, much bigger, right? So what I'm saying is basically, to begin with, there is not so much choice. But with this film, I've also wanted to really incorporate or work with young, aspiring people who really love the sort of do this out of love for the art. So this is why there was sort of a conscious decision to not just cast, but the crew, everything. I consciously decide to choose or select from people, just random sometimes. So that was also, I think it was also really, really, I don't know, there's something so nice about it because it was really, everybody was there because everybody wants to do it. Everybody really loves doing this. It's really not so much like a job or a profession or some sort of a work oriented.
Okay, next is Liam Metcalf.
Hello, Rinpoche. My question's in 2 parts. So the first part is, who was or is your target market for the film? I ask this because I'm assuming that thus far it's been targeted to Buddhists, yet you applied to festivals which suggest a wider audience. The second part of the question is, would you ever consider a live showing to a non-Buddhist community? And I think you've already answered this in previous questions, and a re-edit to make the film accessible to a broader audience.
Now, this is an important question, I think. Who is my target audience? I guess there is sort of on the idealistic level, of course, the whole wide world, right? If that's possible. But I have to be realistic. So yes, Buddhists and maybe people also who like watching this kind of film, I guess. And there's always, I think, if the story is told well, it really doesn't matter the subject. And this is sort of a lesson I am sort of slowly learning myself. Yes, I know, you know, it's difficult to, you know, kind of, I don't know, market it or, I mean, it's difficult to reach the wide world. But I guess it also depends on how you tell stories. And there's always, they don't even have to be Buddhist, I don't think so. As long as the story is told well, I think there are people who would watch this kind of film. But I have to be also very realistic, of course. Right from the day one, I know it will be difficult to pitch to agents or distributors. But you know, as part of your question suggested, there's always hope that some of this festival will accept, because also, you know, festivals on one hand, they also sort of tell, you know, like they sort of present themselves as people who support this kind of film, who accepts this kind of film. I don't know, who try to accommodate this kind of film. But that's just on theory though. In reality, especially if the festivals are big, like Sundance, then, I mean, imagine just Sundance alone, they must have 10,000 films being pitched. Now, some of those poor people who are trying to screen these films, probably they're not even paid well. And now these people, they had to sit through, and films like mine that has no action, 7 minutes, 10 minutes in the beginning, you know, it will be chopped right at the beginning. This I know. And also, you know, you just have to calculate, I guess, everything. Let's say I have Brad Pitt acting in it. Then, of course, everything changed, right? Then I can also go out there and say, hey, you know, I have Brad Pitt. And then sometimes maybe even more lending their ear. It's but it's not like, you know, this kind of film never makes to, you know, I mean, not just you know, obscure. What I mean is like obscure, strange films never make into these mainstream festivals. They do, but as in life, in our life, I think lobbyists are so powerful. You need lobbyists. But then lobbyists, they have their agenda, they have their interest. And unfortunately, many times it has to be a commercial, right? It has to be. So, I mean, I already know that this film doesn't have much of a commercial value in every level. But one can always have a little bit of hope that maybe festival such as Sundance or such as Tribeca, who sort of exude themselves for being like special and interested in this kind of film. Because of that promise, then I'm sure not just me, but many filmmakers will always have some sort of a hope. I mean, yes, in one way, this film, you can say, is really targeted for Buddhist, Himalayan. But on the other hand, everybody has to die. Some people might want to know what do people do in Himalaya? What do they think about after death, right? So I guess as long as the story is well told and as long as you have a good lobbyist, I guess, then probably you will find a larger audience.
Okay, Liana.
Hi, Rinpoche. So my question is, how do we know that we're not already dead and just going through the illusion of life like Dolim? And how do we prepare for death?
You know, the word death and life for a Buddhist is quite complicated, as your question very much suggests. In a way, living is, and the big part of the living is also dying. And also, the process of dying is also the beginning of the next moment of the living. So from that point of view, yes, many times, theoretically speaking, it's difficult to differentiate between what is living and what is dying. But on the more, I don't know, pragmatic or on a more habitual level, I guess so-called living, we probably have a slightly much more, control. I mean, like, as stories suggest, as someone who never speaks Japanese, during the so-called living, you will not really speak Japanese. But supposedly, when you, according to some of the Buddhist teachings about life and death and after so-called death, the whole concept of time, space, therefore, concepts such as communication, language, symbolism, they alter. So it is possible that you never speak, let's say, I don't know, Portuguese, and suddenly you begin to understand Portuguese. So that's what I was trying to sort of play with. It's not necessarily that when we die, everyone will become a bilingual or multilingual. I'm just saying that if time, space, identity, language, symbolism gets jumbled or get mixed up, or it gets opened up, or we get liberated from this kind of distinctions, then why not? We may be able to maybe understand what the birds are saying, what the insects are saying to us. That is possible. And I guess that's what I was trying to play with.
Helen Gu.
Hello, Rinpoche. I want to ask two questions about this film. First is a vast question. In different cultures or religions, people often have their different experience and opinions about death. And there are so many literatures and films which tell us the world after death. I want to ask director a question that what differences are between this film and the previous literaries and films, and whether this film provide a possibility to illustrate death from Buddhism. And another question is about a detail. I want to know why Dolem's death is related to the secret, and whether the pregnancy test is a metaphor of rebirth, because I think it is not looks like a story from Buddhist. Thanks for your answering.
Okay. I'll try my best to answer this. Well, first of all, I should say I really don't know so much about what other religion talks about after the death. As I said earlier, with somebody else, is the question. Buddhist concept of death and life is quite complex. It's quite, should I say, it's a very big study. But at the same time, I think it is something that we can sort of, I don't know, the best word is guess. Maybe we can do some guess job, right? So I think when Buddhists talk about life and death, Buddhists are always talking about perception. So when the perception changes, and that can change. I mean, even in our living situation, many times our perception changes due to all kinds of reasons. I mean, it could be something very temporary, like let's say we drink a lot of wine, alcohol. Then when we get drunk, your perception changes. And how you look at life, how you look at yourself. I don't know. Unhappy people become happy, happy people become unhappy. People who are usually timid, they become very bold. People who are shy become not so shy, so on and so forth. So, and also, let's say suddenly you and I, let's say you become blind or I become deaf. But we are still alive. But because you have become blind and I become deaf, the way we look at the world will also change. It's no more going for you. There will be no color, there will be no shape, there will be no, I don't know, light, so on and so forth. For me, there's no like sound, right? So supposedly, according to Buddhism, when we die, a big changes in perception happens, a big, because, you are dying or you are dead. So the way your eye consciousness, ear consciousness, way your sense and sense object functions normally will, stop functioning altogether, or if you are gradually dying, then this will all sort of function in a different way. So, but okay. So, but you still have a strong sort of sense that you are continuing. So I think I have also tried to explain this in the film itself. You know, there's this Indian guy who said, well, have you ever seen a chicken's head being cut off? You know, and right after chicken's head being cut off, it still sort of keep on moving a little bit. And then the main character says, well, but that's moving only for a moment. But you know, a moment and eon, that's very relative. I mean, even Einstein have said time is relative, right? So, yeah, and you know, your question is quite big. So I guess, you know, your perceptions changes. And that includes things like you see things that you have never seen before. You hear things that you never heard before. And then, of course, you still think you are continuing. So this is why my character is interacting with his brother, his sister, his auntie. He's getting a little bit puzzled why people are not really talking to him, etc., etc. I hope I answered your first question. I'm sorry, this is a really complicated question. As for the secrecy and of the pregnancies, that's just, you know, I need to tell a story, and the story need to have a little bit of a drama, I guess. You know, that's what movies about. It has to have some drama, otherwise people are not really interested. So drama is usually always something that's going to bother the main character, otherwise it's not a drama. I guess for character Dolom, this is a kind of a significant, and this is quite a dramatic event, or it could be. And if something like this happens to any one of us, we will be concerned, we'll be worried, we'll be paranoid. And actually, in the midst of this paranoia, in the midst of this passion, if we die, then actually the force of this passion and confusion is so strong, you still have this urge to finish what you are doing. So I guess that's what I was trying to portray in the film.
Next, we have Jigme Jordan.
Hello, Ramachela. The question is, with some actors and crew members not being Bhutanese, I heard the script was written in English, while the majority of the actors spoke in Dzongkha. How was it directing a film with the script in one language and actors speaking in a different language?
Oh, you know, this is a talent of and dedication of my actors. If the role is reversed, if I need you to do this, I don't think I can do it. And my actors, they did a fantastic job. I mean, having a conversation with the two different language and perfectly, you know, responding with their expression and, you know, picking up from that dialogue, especially between my main character and then the fortune teller, who even had an argument in two different language. So that was very impressive. I have to say, they all read it in English. They all read English, and that must have helped. But still, this is difficult. In the beginning, I thought how they will actually do this. I even have an option that maybe they will all do it in English. But then when the actors performed really well, I was very happy.
Okay, next is Rohan Vikram Desai.
Namaste, Guruji. There was a character that seemed to be a pandit or a pujari that appeared maybe 2 or 3 times in the film. And especially towards the end, it was like one of the last shots, maybe in the last scene, where he's kind of rambling these numbers as if like he's either betting or gambling, maybe. I didn't understand that character. I did not understand, if you could.
You're not the only one, actually. I will tell you, this really didn't have anything that is meaningful point, or it was, I just put it there because, as I said right at the beginning, sometimes I like putting these events in part, as part of the story. I think you are talking about this guy who was during the funeral. He was reading the list of sort of inventory of, I think, salaries for all the Indian freedom fighters.
Yep.
I just like the idea of having, this kind of character. After all, this is during what we call Bardo, which means like after you died and before you have a chance to sort of take a rebirth, then all kinds of hallucinations, all kinds of encounter, all kinds of experience happens, supposedly. So I thought, as I said earlier with some of the questionnaire, when you tell a story, and especially if you're trying to tell a strange story, you have to make the strangeness kind of not too strange so that people are totally lost, right? But you still have to maintain a bit of the strangeness. Now, if I make a total, I don't know, strange experience of a Bardo being, or perhaps it would be totally lost. But if I create a story, character that has some sort of a resemblance of our life experience. For instance, I think this Pujari, or what do you call the Pandit, he talks about he's, going back and forth and reciting, I think, Barcelona versus Swansea, which is a football club. Well, a lot of people watch football club, and we all are so obsessed with the football, many anyway. And it's possible there's a ghost in the ghost realm who is still, hasn't resolved this, sort of, I don't know, the dilemma of who won, Barcelona or Swansea. This, I guess also partly we were having a lot of good time and didn't really bother too much about, whether it's making sense or not.
CK Quick.
Hello, Rinpoche. In your frame, you talk about Abbey Crossing. Is Abbey Crossing truly exists on the pathway after after death? If so, where does it lead to? Thank you very much.
These are really, I don't know. I never thought these kind of questions I will face. But then again, I think, I'm sure a lot of people know semiotic or symbolism. I think, you know, in our life, there's a lot of symbolism. And here I am trying to tell a story about a dead being helped by a guy who is supposedly, I don't know, a guide, someone who is trying to help this lost soul, so to speak. But as in many cases with a guide, you know, could be a little bit dodgy, right? Is he real or is he fake or is he a charlatan? Is he going to take me for a ride? You know, like, what is he doing? So that's a challenge in our life, isn't it? I mean, maybe some of people who know about life and adventure and the spiritual path, you will know this, our so-called guru, a guide. I mean, there's also always a lot of trepidation, should we really trust this man, blah, blah, all of that. So there's that. Crossing, I thought, is kind of important because Buddhists always talk about, like crossing, gate, gate, paragate, gone, beyond, going, gone. But, how do you speak that to the normal audience? So I use the symbol such as Abbey crossing. The Abbey crossing, as I spoke earlier with the earlier question, Abbey crossing is a very popular destination, and maybe our main character knows about Abbey crossing, and maybe it is something that is attractive for him. So the guide maybe you say, hey, let's go and see Abbey crossing. But then he said, oh, that's a fake one. And then the guide says, well, who cares? Just cross. Just don't doubt. So these are just playing with look, none of this, some people will, for a lot of people, death is just end. Nothing happens after you breathe your last breath. Okay, so for them, there's not much conversation. But for some of the people who believe that there is still a life after death or a sort of a living consciousness, then, your normal reference you are losing, or, there's no more your normal reference. You still do have a residual of language, references, symbolism. So I know this question has been asked before also, like not only the Abbey crossing, but at the last scene, we have a very, sort of primitive looking gate, which I insisted with my production team that I wanted the gate this way instead of a very magnificent. I mean, we could always choose something like a, Triumph, the Paris, the gate, or the India gate, but I wanted something really, really just a symbolism of crossing. It doesn't have to be anything that is magnificent or beautiful. It can be, but it doesn't have to be. depending on, you know. So yeah, anyway, short answer for you is, it's, for me, it is a symbol. And symbol are always half, it's, you know, symbolism is something that you, the perceiver, has to understand this a little bit, but also has to be beyond, a little bit beyond how you normally see things, right? So it's a little bit, you know, it's half-half. Okay.
Next, we have Dorothea.
Yeah, hello, Rinpoche. My question is quite similar to the one before. My question is, what is the symbolism of the crossing? You kind of answered it already. And it has a second part, which is, there is a certain time pressure I realized in the film. Like there is an urge for Dolom to cross over, and with the first guide and then the second one. So my question is, what is about this time pressure, this certain time period he is supposed to cross?
Again, difficult question, but very good question, I have to say. Yes, there's a time pressure because your old reference, the old way of thinking is slowly fading. And then the new one, new perception, new way of looking is coming. And I think throughout the film, I have tried to mention this a little bit, like the messenger who's sort of stuck there because he just believes that he has to, you know, he hasn't gone back to see his family. Or that girl who is in the gas station. You know, so according to Buddhist theory, many times, if you are not careful, you can get stuck with some whirlwind or a swamp of habitual patterns. And while you are sort of, I don't know, while you sober, maybe, with a certain habit, which you are not too caught up with, while you are going through that, you should take advantage of this sort of soberness and really try to get out of this habitual sort of swamp. Otherwise, you may enter into this new and deep and vast swamp of habitual patterns. And then from there, it may be difficult to get out. So usually, in the Buddhist sort of theory of what we call Bardo, which is after so-called death, people still go through this three days, I think standard 3 days of 3 days and nights of sort of your normal habit, which is now fading. And before you collect a new habit and get really entangled with that, you have to really sort of be careful and try to get out of it.
Yeah. Next is Dawa Tsering Lama.
My question is, what was the budget for the film and how was it financed? Additionally, what are the challenges of making a film in a country like Bhutan and a remote place like Gilipu?
Well, obviously, I mean, of course, the budget is very relative, isn't it? But standard filmmaking in the world, if you're comparing, I think our budget is really, really low. And there's just something good about that because you also don't feel too pressurize. As far as challenge, well, as I said earlier, there are few challenges. I think the main challenge is the whole film culture is very small. And I think that is a really big challenge. I don't know. If you are if you are making a film in English, even if your film is really, really bad, if you can just show one weekend in like, I don't know, 100 theater, you can basically almost make your money back, right? Now, if you have only about 300,000 people who speaks this language, out of that, your chances of only about 60,000 people, 50,000 people watching this, then you have a big challenge. I mean, that's a really big challenge. I think this is one challenge that a lot of Bhutanese filmmakers go through. I think we just have to have we just need to be aware of these certain, what do you call it? I don't know, precondition. I don't know. To give you a better example, I think, I think, throughout, I have sort of experienced this from people. When people talk about a film, they are always talking about the normal standard film in film world. It doesn't really apply like this. It's like if you are talking about coffee, you can't think that coffee is always going to be Starbucks standard, right? Starbucks is yes, it's a coffee company and they have coffee and they have I'm not saying the Starbucks coffee is not good. It is just one kind. And I drink from them too. And you know what they have. Like, for instance, I like their iced coffee. And you also know, their, I don't know, counters, their menus, their, I don't know, presentation, their logo. So if that's what you want, and because it's safe, because Starbucks in Seattle, Starbucks in Delhi, Starbucks in, I don't know, Hong Kong, it's all going to be kind of similar. So you have that safety, so to speak. Now, we don't always have to drink Starbucks coffee. Time to time, it's good to drink some other coffee, right? Now, let's say I'm trying to sell Vietnamese coffee with egg yolk. They have this Vietnamese coffee with an egg in it. Now, let's say I'm trying to sell this in Thimphu or even in India, then, I have to think really, I have to be prepared. I want to do it because I'm passionate about it. I want to really present this Vietnamese egg yolk coffee, but I have to prepare that not everybody is going to like it. That's something that I have to prepare. So when you talk about challenges, I think the challenge is really so much to do with how we are ourselves prepared with whatever product you are coming up with. Beside that, of course, I think I've already said this. The film industry is not. You could almost say it's. I heard actually now the film industry in Bhutan is actually even challenged even much more than before. So that's unfortunate.
Jane Backham is next.
Hello, Rinpoche. This film was so good. It really gave the feeling of what it would be like to be in this in-between realm after we die, rather than reading about it. And my question is, where does Dolam go at the end of the film? Is this different to where he would have gone earlier in the film if he'd realized sooner his mistakes and been less attached to his former self?
I don't know, actually, to tell you the truth. But I have actually left one sort of a teasing symbolism right at the end. I have laundry, what do you call it, pegs? Those. I thought this might make people think, okay, he's gone back to, I don't know, the world, because to me, that represents chores, sort of worldly chores. So that was, but I can say whatever I want to say, right? Now. Okay.
That's it.
Arijit Bose.
I saw you.
Pranam Rinpoche. So, Rinpoche, I've seen the film 3 times now, and I'm still very confused about the character called Sitar. So, Sitar seems to be some kind of an antagonist in the film and sort of like the opposite of the fortune teller character who is trying to take Dolam towards this crossing. And Sitar seems like the Christian idea of Satan or something, who is trying to keep him confused.
Well, first I would need to say, I wish filmmakers like myself have more audience like you. Sitar character is, well, again, as I said earlier, after that death, you are supposedly go through all kinds of experience. You meet people that you have never met for a long time. There was even I've even heard that you will meet your great grandfather who you have never met. But how, that's going to be difficult for me to portray, right? So I thought, the character Siddhar will be kind of interesting because there's a bit of an indication that they knew each other. And also, remember, I was sort of playing with in characters' guilt and his attachment with his mother, and the sitar has recently supposedly talked to his mother, and this is also not necessarily happening in reality. It could all be playing. His guilt conscious is playing all this story in his head. So I needed to have that catalyst to tell that story. So this is why I have the character Sitar, who, by the way, whose scene, I think we have cut almost 80% of Sitar's scene, which is a little bit unfortunate but by then the film was getting really, really long. So we had to cut a lot. Sitar is some sort of a antagonist or no? Not really. There's really no antagonist there. It's all about a trip. I think it's really about a trip. It's a tripping.
So it's in his own head, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Okay, next we have Sarah Carmichael.
Hello, Rinpoche. I would like to ask why the fortune teller metamorphosed into a woman at the end of the film. What's the significance of this change of identity?
Big part of the, theory or the philosophy of Bardo or the after death is about uncertainty, the shifting nature of all the phenomena, of everything. Supposedly, well, according to Buddhism, it's supposedly happening even, we are speaking right now between you and me, there's a shifting all the time. But because the shift that's happening right now is so, because we are not mindful, because we are not aware, therefore, okay. So I was saying, as it's in the film, the fortune teller says that we are shifting all the time. You will shift, things will shift. And I guess that need to be paid off. And I thought it's a good sort of surprise. Filmmakers always need to also rely on a certain surprise or a memorable kind of symbolism.
Ina Harman.
You already mentioned that a lot of the scenes from Sitar character had to be cut. I was wondering which parts of it you would have liked audience to see, if it's possible, and maybe there were other scenes that you had to cut from the movie.
Oh, at this point, I don't even remember now. But as I said earlier, definitely there's some really good dialogue between Sitar and the main character in that bar. But I think looking back, maybe it is a bit too long. And already, the film is quite long. So probably it's not wise to torture the audience.
Sam Porter.
Good morning, Rinpoche. So I have a primary question and secondary question. You've kind of already answered the first one, but so in the film, the guide spoke English and everyone else spoke their language of origin. but everyone was able to understand one another. Could you talk maybe a bit more about the use of language in the film and the meaning, or perhaps multiple meanings behind there not being language barrier? And then the second question is, the German woman who said she was invited to the ceremony seemed to be someone with a specific meaning. Was she someone special? And if the monks invited her, how did they do that?
Well, I have to say, as a Buddhist myself, there's a lot of Buddhist sort of philosophical influence, I guess. And in the Buddhist, whatever, philosophy, if the mind becomes so naked, meaning if the mind can be independent from all these, external interference, then actually language is a big, big obstacle. Language is actually really deceiving, so on and so forth. If the mind becomes naked, you will just understand. It doesn't matter what language you speak. So I guess I was trying to play with that. What was the second question? I forgot. A second part of the question, I forgot.
Oh, the second question is about the German woman.
Oh, yes,
who
the German
was
woman.
invited.
Another, yeah, and also there are specific rituals in the Tantric Buddhism where they invoke all the dead spirits to partake ceremonies. So you could be invited during one of those ceremonies.
Next is Michael Machiocci.
Hello, Rinpoche. I saw some of the audition tapes and read that the casting process took a long time. What was the reason behind the lengthy casting process?
Few reasons. I think the main reason is I want the people to really like doing this, to be involved with this. Not just, I don't know, not just because it's their hobby, or definitely not for some kind of a material gain, which there is in anyway, but not for, I don't know, excitement or whatever. But I really wanted people to be dedicated and love this. And I think that's one of the main reasons. And I think it paid off because it's quite surprising. It took a long time, but they all, really stood firm and really turned up, so to speak, which was really good. And I think it paid off because I think really the actors did an amazing job. Many of them really don't have much opportunity and to act in the film or to be involved in this kind of performance.
Up next is Lucas.
Yes, thank you. Hello, Rinpoche. Thank you very much for doing this. So I'm curious about your creative process. One aspect of your films that I find particularly moving and that I like is that I feel that you're close to your sources of inspiration. So I'm curious to know how you work with them and how you incorporate them in your creative process. For example, I felt that Tarkovsky's Stalker film had a strong influence on this one. And so I was wondering if maybe you watched it again, or if you targeted special scenes you wanted to, I don't know, pay homage to. How do you work with these?
You are very right. Actually, there's a scene, the gas station in my film. One could almost say I plagiarize almost every set in there, because for me, Tarkovsky's Stalker is one of the most powerful. And your question, I don't know, to me, it is an encouragement. I wanted, I admire some of these filmmakers, their boldness, their patience, and also sort of their couldn't carelessness. And that's very daring. But I have to be careful here also. I'm already planning for my next film, and I feel that I have to be a little bit, sometimes when you communicate with people, what you want to say in your head, and how you want to articulate, which involves a lot of kowtowing or bowing down to how other people perceive, right? So I think these two need to be balanced, otherwise there will be no communication.
Tuong Tung?
Yes, hello Rinpoche. So my question is, everyone here is know that you are a very busy person. So what motivates to keep you making movies despite your busy schedule?
Actually, my kind of film doesn't take too much of a time. I think people are thinking like big film production, which takes a lot of time. Yes, the writing process takes time, but I love, probably my favorite part of film making process is the writing. But the actual shooting, even from the practical point of view, we have to be quite swift and quite efficient and do it quite fast. So I need to say that. But also, although maybe the medium of film, the power of this medium is probably waning a little bit, because now there's all other medium, right? Now there's AI, ChatGPT, I don't know, TikTok, all these things. So, but having said that, still, I think the medium of moving picture film still is quite powerful, and I feel that I could use it efficiently, and who knows, maybe I could even use it for something beneficial in the future.
Now we have our last question from Arnold. Go ahead, Arnold.
Yes, Rinpoche, thank you for this great movie. I watched it 5 times, as many times as I could. And I have a very mundane question. We are a small Buddhist retreat center with around 100 practitioners in Germany and Austria. And we would like to screen the movie on our premises for our Sangha, and also would be happy to return the income if that is possible. Or word it the other way around, how can we help to make this great movie available to a broader audience?
I'll, I guess you'll have to speak with my producer. But you know, as I said earlier, right from the beginning, I didn't have sort of ambition or sort of expectation that this film is going to be kind of a very accessible to the larger world. You know, I have to be realistic. But I know that there will always be very enthusiastic, kind, and very supportive audience and friends, like you guys. So thank you for extending your help for me, even though I don't have designated artist, so to speak, for my film. My audience are the lobbyists, and I think I have to say this time I feel very encouraged. We have already done 2 live stream around the world, and I feel very encouraged the response that I have received. So I'd like to thank you and also others who are extending these helps. Please talk to the producer and the team. And I think just to sort of create a curiosity about a certain subjects, that already is a success for me. Thank you.
So Ramachala, with this, we are done with our questions. This concludes our session. Thank you so much, everyone. This was such a privilege. I would like to express our deepest gratitude to Rinpoche, our Director Khyentse Norbu, for taking the time to be with us here today and answering our questions with such thoroughness and attention to detail. And thank you, everyone, for your thoughtful questions and your enthusiastic participation. We really hope this session was valuable to all, and I'm hoping that this session not only answers your question, but also questions of a lot more of our audiences. Please stay connected with Pig at the Crossing through our social media channels and keep an eye out for upcoming announcements. Your continued support to Pig at the Crossing is deeply appreciated. Once again, thank you so much for joining today and have a wonderful rest of the day. Thank you so much, Rinpoche.